So now that Israel has been bombing Iran for 5 days with American support, if not active military presence, the International Atomic Energy Agency has admitted that they actually have no proof that Iran is building a nuclear bomb. This is the LaRouche Organization update for June 19th. I'm Diane Sare. So indeed, as Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, told the U.S. Congress some weeks ago that she had no evidence that Iran was building a nuclear bomb, the International Atomic Energy Agency has now said the same. This was after 6 days ago complaining that Iran was not in compliance and giving Israel a pretext to, and really it wasn't even a pretext, to launch their illegal war of aggression, quoting Grossi. What we informed and what we reported was that we did not have, as in coincidence with some of the sources you mentioned, this is in an interview, that we did not have any proof of a systematic effort to move into a nuclear weapon, Grossi said in an interview with CNN's Christine Amanpour. The IAEA chief said he is not aware of whether or not any secret activities were carried. In other words, they have no evidence that Iran was doing anything illegal, but now a dozen or so top Iranian scientists have been killed, major military leadership has been killed, and the United States is apparently contemplating getting into the war. And President Donald Trump said, unfortunately, a couple days ago, that he doesn't care what his director of national intelligence said, i.e., that Iran was not building a nuclear bomb. So where are we? Late yesterday, President Trump said that he'd really like to avoid war. Iran wants to negotiate, he said, but he thinks it's a little bit late, and he's not certain what he is going to do. Hopefully, a war will be averted. Now, for Russia, the Russian Foreign Ministry put out on the 17th, 2 days ago, a very sharp statement denouncing the destructive actions and confrontational approach of the Israeli government and its accomplices and sympathizers among certain Western states whose manipulation of the global nuclear non-proliferation regime and pressure on the IAEA have led to a tragedy. Lying IAEA reports and a subsequent resolution produced by the IAEA Board of Governors, reeking of anti-Iran hysteria, effectively gave Israel a green light to attack Iran's peaceful nuclear energy facilities. Now, also remember, a few days ago, the spokeswoman for the Russian Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova, said there are practical consequences. If you are bombing nuclear research facilities, nuclear power plants, there is an actual possible practical result of that action. Also, as I said in the update of yesterday morning, if we start striking Iran from the United States using American bunker busters, Iran has already said they will respond, and there are tens of thousands. I've heard different figures, 40,000, 90,000. It's probably changing by the day. American troops deployed all over Southwest Asia. They become targets in this war. How is that going to go over when the majority of the American people don't want another war, don't want a war with Iran, and voted for Trump because he said that we wouldn't be doing any more of these wars? Also, I would like people to remember what we heard. Now, some of you may be too young to remember the first Iraq war in 1991, I think it was 1990, 91, where Iraq was lured into invading Kuwait by U.S. Ambassador to Iraq, April Glaspie, who said, if you invade Kuwait, we won't do anything. And we got stories of babies being ripped out of incubators by Iraqi soldiers in Kuwait. Turned out later it was a total fake, that the Kuwaiti ambassador's daughter, who I guess was a great actress, had been running up and down the halls of Congress crying about something that didn't happen. Then in 2003, we heard about Iraq's weapons of mass destruction. Bibi Netanyahu insisted that was the case. Tony Blair, another lying criminal who unfortunately has inserted himself into Steve Witkoff's negotiating team. Tony Blair told us, irrefutable evidence, Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. We killed 1 million Iraqis. We lost over 5,000 American soldiers and perhaps as many as another 5,000 contractors. And now we have 22 soldiers a day, veterans committing suicide in this nation. Are we going to fall for this again? I would hope not. And time will tell. Now, otherwise, another not so good note is that Washington side, the United States, canceled the next meeting between American and Russian personnel, diplomatic personnel, to work on normalizing U.S.-Russia relations, I believe they're called, to reduce irritants. That doesn't bode so well either. I don't believe you can possibly have too much dialogue. On the other hand, Lindsey Graham's crazy sanctions package, which supposedly had 82 co-sponsors, has been held back by President Trump. Lindsey Graham was hoping to get it through before the G7 summit. Didn't happen. And what Trump said at the summit is he said, quote, "When I sanction a country that costs the U.S. a lot of money, a tremendous amount of money, it's not just let's sign a document. You're talking about billions and billions of dollars. Sanctions are not that easy." Now, along these lines, I just have to say, speaking of complete insanity, and there's a lot of that going around today, isn't there? The European Union has just presented a proposal to cut all liquid natural gas from Russia within 2028 in 2 steps. One, ban LNG spot purchases from June 2026, and then block any future contracts. Now, the idea of cutting off liquid natural gas at the same time that we're contemplating having a major war with Iran, which could cause serious disruptions to petroleum and energy, is really insane. And you have to begin to ask yourself, what is the intention of these people? Do they want to throw the West into total chaos? Because for all of the talk about how Europe or the United States have to weaken Russia and weaken everybody else, it seems that most of these things are having a bad effect on us, the people who are making these policies. So I don't know if the Europeans will think better of this. It looks like Trump has pulled Lindsey Graham back from the insanity for the moment. And then finally, on more monetary insanity, JP Morgan and Societe Generale are going with these stablecoin policies. And JP Morgan has apparently filed a new trademark application for probably a bank-backed stablecoin. And the application has been filed with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office on June 15th. It is named JPMD and covers a variety of blockchain and cryptocurrency features. Now, both JP Morgan and Societe Generale are part of the GSIFI banks. Remember that globally significant or global internationally significant financial institutions, the ones that are too big to jail, too big to fail, too big to jail. If they go under, guess what? You bail them out. And a Chinese central banker, Pang Zhongshen, has warned about the deregulation of cryptocurrency. He said, quote, "Regulatory oversight remains insufficient in several emerging areas of digital finance. For the rapidly expanding crypto asset market and climate risk related regulatory frameworks, global regulatory coordination is insufficient, with regulatory approaches swinging drastically and being overly driven by politics," unquote. So, more risky business. What the United States should be doing is what Lyndon LaRouche said back in 2014, put the system through bankruptcy with a reinstatement of the Glass-Steagall bank separation. That would require going through the books of the banks and sorting out speculative garbage and normal commercial banking, which would be saved. A firewall would be put up to protect people's savings, mortgages. We'd have to bail out pension funds. The Federal Reserve needs to be nationalized. We need a national bank. We need long-term low-interest credit into those things that will increase the productivity in real physical terms of the U.S. economy. Modern infrastructure, high-speed rail, water management, healthcare, education, these things, and emphatically a science driver with fusion energy and space colonization, moon and Mars. Now, if we did that, the buying power of the dollar would increase, he estimated, by an order of magnitude. That's how you fight inflation, not by making up funny money, which has no meaning, has no real intrinsic value, just as currency doesn't. But if it's used as an instrument of credit, then you can move forward. So things are moving very, very rapidly. The American people are clear. They don't want war. It is unclear what is going to happen in the coming hours and days. So please stay tuned and